Good morning, everybody. It's Miss Mick here. And today I am introducing to you the Early Childhood Education Junior Year Special Education or Special Needs Research Project. So first of all, there's a couple of terms that you are going to want to think about. And in my classroom, when we do vocabulary, aka it's known as vocabulary with visual images. Vocabulary with visual images is a three-part process. So one, the student is to write the word down. Secondly, they write the definition provided in the textbook. And then third, which is a validated resource. And then the third thing they do is they reread the definition to themselves while thinking on it. And then they want to add a visual image. So visual images, if you're into illustrating and drawing, can include that, but doesn't have to. It can be using that term in a sentence or restating it in a phrase. So, you're just supposed to take time to read the definition to yourself, think on it, and then what is coming and what are you visualizing as you're thinking. So that's my process with that. So first we're going to look at the 8 terms that help determine if a child has a possible area of special needs. So in our book, Working with Young Children by Judy Herr, I'm going to be reading from chapter 31. So the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. You can go on the, you can Google search this, use the internet. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act came into play in the late 1970s, and changed the way that education in America, the term education for all. Unfortunately, there are other countries that are unable to offer education opportunities for children with special needs. So we are very unique in America that we try to educate everyone through grades 12, kindergarten through 12. Woo, I was saying that backwards. So it's not mandatory that children receive education services in their infant, toddler, and preschool years. However, a child doctor, will encourage a parent and help with the identification process. So the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or also known as IDEA, is very important to understand how it changed the way that education is today. And that was not always the case, so education and inclusion and how we see special needs children educated today is very different than what it was before 1980. Second term is IFSP. All right. IFSP stands for the Individualized Family Service Plan. Okay. So this is for children under 3. So when a child is born and the parent or the doctor or the caregiver is seeing some concerns with development, like the baby, the infant is not progressing where they should be. This is started at birth. Okay. So when your baby is born, the doctors begin to look, they're looking at motor development. They're looking at, connection with the mother, all that kind of stuff. So this can start at birth. A family can be put on an individualized family service plan. It can occur as the child grows and the doctor, the pediatrician or family doctor, is noticing some things, and or the parent is bringing up concerns, and then they begin looking into some areas of special needs. So when the child is young, they are put on an IFSP, which is an individualized family service plan first. After the age of 3, it moves to the next term, which is IEP. All right, IEP is Individualized Education Plan. So in the IEP process, you have to have a professional do assessments and have a recommendation of an area. The pediatrician, family doctor also is involved in that process, the parents, the teacher, like say if there is a preschool teacher, well, if that preschool teacher doesn't work for the public school, then usually the public, wherever that child lives, that public school would be notified, and they would also be part of the identification process. And then it would be determined if and when, like what type of enrichment or services need to be provided. Some children would get things like a week of occupational therapy. Occupational therapists focus on fine motor development, and fine motor is with our hand muscles, hand-eye coordination, and how hands work. So that's a physical disability. So there's some children that would get like an hour a week with a 0 to 3 specialist. There's Head Start has a couple programs. So there's a lot of different programming out there. Sometimes they will come to your home or, wherever your child may be at for childcare. So that's kind of how that works. Okay. So the IEP, the IFSP, as the child gets beyond age 3, transitions into an IEP. And that is what is used. An IEP is what is used for that, getting them ready for kindergarten age frame. So late preschool, kindergarten years. So an IEP stands for Individualized Education Plan. Okay. So we are looking at that child. We are looking at that child's strengths in all of the developmental areas that we promise to focus on. So that includes cognitive, intellectual ability. How are the thinking processes? Then let's look at their physical development. Physical development looks at the fine motor, which I just explained. And then we also look at the gross motor. Okay, so how their whole body, all that functions, their large muscles, how are they walking upstairs, walking, running, jumping, balancing, different things like that. Then we also look at areas of social and emotional development, because those are other areas that children can be identified as needing an IEP to help them learn as closely to their typical peers. So there is a referral process, okay? So the role of the teacher is to follow whatever recommendations the state or the national guidelines have for early childhood development from birth up to age 8. So we look at where is that child's actual age. So according to their birth date, they're 2. But, maybe we're seeing some areas where they're doing more 1-year-old things. So they're, maybe 6 months to a year behind in one of the areas of development that I just discussed. So the referral would be, having, from the teacher standpoint, you'd have to have a conference with the parent, explain what you're seeing. What do they see at home? What can we try? So you try to do that. You encourage the parent to share what you found with the doctor the next time they go for a checkup. So, it can be a slow process. So you want to, check back in. Do understand that, parents, they need to know things that their child can do well. So you have to build up that they're really showing strength in this area when you're delivering them the concern. That's always been, a way that I've found is very positive. So the referral process will include you. You need to include the parents and other family members. You need to help them start observing what are they seeing at home, and then trying to add whatever suggestions they have with the child in your classroom. Keep documenting, writing observations, and then the next step would be talking with a physician, and then seeing if we need to work with the school district or what services are we needing. So sometimes with like speech articulation problems, we would get connected with like Columbus Speech and Hearing or stuff like that. So that's the referral process. Acceleration is we want to make sure that we are providing children with acceleration or with, well, all children need to have acceleration. So that's when we're being challenged. So wherever their area of strength is, we need to make sure we're offering them opportunities to build upon that strength, and we're not just focusing on the area of special need. Okay, so that it's a balancing act, because we want to make sure that we're building up children's emotional development, and that they understand that, okay, maybe I'm not so good at these couple of things, but I'm good at this. So we always have to be balancing that. So that's what acceleration means. Some people think that acceleration is only what you do for children who are, gifted and talented, which is true, but that's not true to just them. It's true for every child. We have to try to challenge children and keep them learning and build on their strengths. And I know that is not the textbook definition, but that's what I'm going with today. So that also leads with enrichment. Okay, so we want to enrichment and acceleration go together. So we want to make sure that we are focusing on those pieces, and we are making sure that children are given those opportunities. And I'm looking for the beautiful worded, here it is, thing. So for teaching suggestions, acceleration is a process in which a child is assigned to a class with older children, possibly like gifted, in a certain subject. This objective is to move the child through activities at a faster pace than children with average ability. Again, so, it used to be that we just focused on gifted and talented children, but we need to make sure that all children have enrichment and acceleration in the areas of their strength. But again, acceleration, the textbook term does again just refer that gifted children have to be offered. So that's why a lot of school districts, like in the high school level, they offer AP courses, college credit plus, and some of those opportunities. And then they also have like gifted and talented meetings a couple of times a year, or special trips or something. So they have to have that acceleration documented. And then in an IEP, every child has to, be shown an area of strength that they're getting, in getting placed in an inclusion setting, which I'll talk about in a minute. So enrichment is textbook. The range and depth of experience is broadened to provide the child with a special curriculum. This process will help the child identify areas of interest. Okay, so again, this is required in students that are gifted, but this needs to be offered for all. So just remember that as well. So 7 is inclusion. So textbook definition of inclusion takes many forms. So a single definition of it does not exist. Inclusion, previously referred to as mainstreaming, so you might have heard people use that term, involves placing, for example, in early childhood, preschool, kindergarten, and Head Start children with special needs children in a natural setting. So in some of the early childhood classrooms that you might have, like half of the enrollment is children already identified with special needs. And then you have your typically developing preschoolers, and they are in preschool and preparing for kindergarten together. And they say that I was able to teach for a few years, and that's kind of how I fell in love with special needs children, because I did not go to college for that. So, but I loved the inclusion, the mix, and then having a special education teacher working beside me. Really awesome. So that leads me to, in Ohio, special education teachers are known as intervention specialists. So that's our last term for today. Intervention specialists are special education teachers. Now, special education teachers specialize in certain areas. They become highly qualified. Like I'm highly qualified as a reading specialist. So I spent a lot of, I added on to my master's degree reading specialist work, K through 12. So I'm able to work with children in kindergarten through 12th grade that have cognitive learning disabilities related to reading. It was very interesting. I was able to teach under that for 3 years with children from 4th grade through 12th grade. So it was a great experience, and I love having that. Teaching reading is a passion of mine. It's one of my big things that I really enjoyed teaching preschoolers to do. So it wasn't it wasn't far-fetched from the other degrees that I had for me. So I do have an intervention specialist with reading K through 12. So the other thing that people can add is intervention specialist. You can be a speech pathologist. That's working with teaching children who are stuttering or with articulation of certain word sounds in the school system. Occupational therapists do fine motor. Physical therapists work with children with gross motor disabilities. And then you also have intervention specialists that are focused on cognitive disabilities. And then that can be, currently, you can be a preschool intervention specialist. That is a separate bachelor's degree in Ohio. And then kindergarten through 12th grade, you can be an intervention specialist in the academics. And then you would pick 2 areas. So most intervention specialists specialize in math, science, or reading and social studies. And then you become highly qualified with the content areas that you decide to focus on. So there are a lot of opportunities in that at the bachelor degree level. And I just want you to know that special education teachers in the state of Ohio are known as intervention specialists. Okay, so that's our terminology. And then I'm going to introduce the research project. So this will all be on Google Classroom. You're going to, just like you did with the Education Theorist project, you're going to pick a method: PowerPoint, Google Slide, or Prezi. 2, you can pick a brochure. 3, an informative poster you must be able to display. And or send me pictures of your work. 4, research paper. So this will be due the end of 4th quarter. Right now, we're not 100% sure when that is. It possibly could be, usually it's the Tuesday after Memorial Day. And then there is going to be a possible extension going into the beginning of next school year. So just kind of pay attention to Google Classroom and announcements on that. But before the end of the quarter, I'm going to set up a due date for your topic. You have to submit your topic to me. And then within the first week, and then your draft will be the following week to see what you've gotten started, so some of your notes and stuff like that. So you'll have 12 things that you need to include in your research. Special need area defined, causes, traits or symptoms of children with special need. 4, method of identification or diagnosis. 5, possible problems, struggles the child with this need goes through. 6, treatment and care. 7, teaching suggestions. So what does the teacher have to provide or do? 8, special services needed for the child at home and for school. 9, programs, agencies, associations, or other resources available for assistance and support, specifically in the Columbus area. So you might find a national, American Leukemia Cancer Society, thing, but then there's a Columbus one or something. So just kind of look and see what's available on website, social media, group pages for that area. Parent support groups. 10, other important information related to this special need that is important to know, or include information from interviewing a parent or teacher of that special need area. You can also include, let's say you yourself grew up with one of these areas of special need. You can include a self, this is what I felt a teacher did wrong, and this is and then one of my other teachers did this, or, what is your suggestion list? 11, I want you to add visuals to any area that is applicable. So make sure you're adding visuals. You don't necessarily have to add a lot of visuals if you're doing the research paper format, but definitely on the others. And then 12, make sure you have a works cited page and bibliography, and that you're looking at things that are professional research sites, so preferably ending in .org, .edu. So be careful of .com websites. You know, you got to vouch for what they're telling you that might not be truthful. So then you're going to pick, your topic is what? Here are the choices available. I'm just going to kind of read this off. This will be uploaded, or I can send it to you. So you can choose hearing impairment, articulation speech problems, or visual impairment. Chronic health needs, there are several listed here. You want to pick one because to write about all of them would be a lot. So you have children who could have allergies, arthritis, cystic fibrosis, diabetes, cancer, usually childhood leukemia is what you'll find in children, sickle cell, asthma, hemophilia, epilepsy. These are all children that could possibly be included with inclusion in your classroom. So that's some that you can pick. Now we're moving down the list. So we have learning disability. Learning disabilities are with cognitive intellectual development, the thinking process. You can choose a specific one. Sometimes you'll find specific ones that are genetically linked, for example, Down syndrome. So you can just do general learning disability, or you could go into a specific one that you find, for instance, Down syndrome, that you feel or you're interested in. Behavior disorder. And then in children, you'll see behavior disorders can break down into emotional and or social. So it might be best to just focus on one or the other. Then we have autism spectrum disorder. And then you have giftedness. Okay, so giftedness or gifted and talented is an area of special needs. And then lastly, you have physical handicap areas. So that's fine motor or gross motor, and can include, but doesn't have to. So you can choose physical handicap. Fine motor would be occupational therapist. That would be the job, the career title for you working with children with fine motor issues. Gross motor would be physical therapist. So that can help you. You can do either one of those, or you can go more specifically and research cerebral palsy, spina bifida, muscular dystrophy. Spina bifida, I think I added like an extra T to that. Sorry about that. Muscular dystrophy or amputation. So again, this list will be provided to you on the Google Classroom. So I have talked too much. I tried to speed. So rewind and have a wonderful time doing this valuable research. I cannot wait for you guys to present these in the fall.